Okay, IED, we're going to be talking about problem 1.4.1 suite improvement, the last segment, and that is going to be closing, that is presenting and reflecting. So, what we're going to do is we're making a 1 minute oral briefing to share your design work with the bakery representatives. So, we're going to be making our presentation as if the audience is the bakery themselves. So, and a lot of people, whenever we start off with this, they immediately don't want to do a presentation because they don't want to get up in front of everybody. The good news about it is if you have something that you've created, it's a lot easier to talk about something that you have created. And the more prep you put into your presentation, the easier it is to do. So I'm going to show you a couple of good ideas on, how to build some effective presentations and how to deliver effective presentations. So let's go ahead and look over here. The very first thing that we kind of need to think about is you need to know the audience themselves. So, that you can ask yourselves a couple of questions about this. So, who is the primary audience? Their gender, age, social or professional group. In this case, we're going to pretend that these are the bakery representatives. So we're going to be trying to make our presentation to the people that are hiring us to do something. So this isn't like just talking about random stuff. This is talking about the specific challenge that we've been uh, charged to do. Let's see. What does the audience already know about the topic? You're going to assume that the audience is already been briefed on your problem and how you're going to, what the general solution is, and you're going to be giving them details about what your solution set is and how it actually works, and honestly, how it's the best one, and that they should go with it. What is their technical expertise? So, if you're just casually giving a talk, then you don't necessarily have to expect people to be technical. In this case, you are going to be needing to use engineering terminology because, or at least the design terminology, because these people are going to need to know how to create these boxes. So you can assume that it's at least semi-technical, but don't think that it's highly technical. You don't like obviously you're not gonna give a huge talk and start talking about extrudes and fillets and chamfers on how these things actually work. The bakery people don't necessarily know what's going on because not a lot of them have had introduction to engineering design or really any design class. You can't assume that people have had a design class. So if you're going to use technical terms, you've got to use technical terms that everybody seems to know. Like instead of using extrude, like maybe use the word like we're pushing out the box or cutting into the box. So try to avoid like the super technical, but you still need to try to communicate your concept. What does the audience need or want from this presentation? So, in this case, like it says, information, motivation, entertainment. In this case, they're looking for information. And that's really, whenever we do engineering presentations, we're focused on that information. So, digital people, if you are, obviously doing this by yourself, you can write to me a presentation and I will read it aloud to the class. And I'll try to record it so that you guys can get some feedback on that presentation, and that will work just fine. And all I need, and I'll read it as slow as I can to get it out to 1 minute. But it needs to be roughly about like a 1 minute presentation. So I don't want y'all to freak out. I don't want you to think. If you really want to, you can record yourself and submit that, and that would be fantastic as well too. But really, what I'm looking for is I'm just looking for a writing like a paragraph of it. And then, like, what is the audience interested in? So, like in this case, the audience is interested in making money. They're going to try to get their reviews better so that ultimately they can, stay in business. They don't want to close down. And there's also a couple of other things as well too. What is the purpose of the presentation? What content is required to achieve that purpose? So think about how when you're building the presentation, you don't think about let's put it this way. Think about the most boring teacher imaginable that you've had in your life so far, and think about what they did and why did you dislike it so much? your aim is to be the complete opposite of that teacher or that preacher or that, anybody who's done a public speaking setting to you. You want to be the complete opposite of that. You don't want to have your audience bored. So ask yourself, like, what could they have done to have, made me pay more attention? And then you want to try to aim, like, whatever you say, that's what you want to try to aim to do. So like some people are like, well, I really would help if they would have, provided pictures, or I would have really helped if they would have added some life to their voice or something like that. And then you have to practice that to make it happen. So, and then like I think this part right here, this is probably the most important thing of all, where you organize the delivery. So you don't want your presentation to just be completely and totally scattershot. You want to basically start it off with an opening, and usually you want it to be as engaging as possible. So you want to try to pique their interest. You want to try to make them think that this is the one that they want to go with. This is the idea. You're like, oh man, this is the one. Okay. And then you want to try to have some like organized body of knowledge. So, that generally involves like the problem and what your solution is. You can compare and contrast other different box styles, and that would be fantastic. You can talk about the importance of this, and you can also like it needs to be sequential. So don't talk about like everything. Sequential just means one after another after another. So don't like flip flop back and forth between. So like if you're comparing and contrasting, talk all about number one and then talk all about the second one. So you don't want to like flip flop it back and forth between them because people will just get real confused real quick. We can only handle so much information in a certain amount of time. I would probably say that if you've gone through like 8 or 9 minutes of gabbing, then you've pretty much reached that point. And speaking of which, I'm kind of running out of time on this one too. You want to try to at least leave some kind of powerful closing to it. And this one is the one that people miss the most often. They'll be giving their presentation and then they're just like, okay, any questions? And I'm pretty much guilty of that as well too. Like I'm looking at this and whenever I give my stuff, usually the bell rings right whenever it hits the end and I'm like, uh-oh, well that closing usually never happens. So, like whenever I'm looking at this in my delivery, I need to work on making powerful closings as well too. Things that motivate people to take action or a memorable idea. So like with your boxes, you're wanting to try to make them to like finish the deal and be like, okay, this is the one that we want to go with, and try to finish it with some power. And this one, honestly, in my opinion, is missed the most often. Okay, the powerful closing, it's just like omitted completely. The organized body, the main reason people miss that is because they usually lack on the organization. They don't prepare effectively. So there's a couple of other things to do about like specifically the delivery. The best thing that I'm going to say about this section, and you're more than welcome to read the whole thing if you want to, is that practice makes perfect. And I am not expecting a perfect presentation whenever you guys come up here, but I am expecting you to give it your best shot. And if you give it your best shot, just like whenever we're doing the 3D design, it gets a little bit easier every single time. So every time you do it, the first time you think that it's just like a complete and total train wreck and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that was awful." And then the next time it's not as bad. And then the next time and then the next time and then the next time. By the time you've done it 20 or 25 times, you're just like, "Oh, okay. We're good to go here. It's not that big of a deal." So for a lot of us, we're working on time number 1. So, it's not gonna be perfect, and I don't want you to think that it is perfect, and accept that peer feedback. So I'm going to try to give you guys feedback, and I'm sure the other students, the bakery committee, will try to give you feedback as well too. Take feedback with a grain of salt, and remember, it has to be objective. You can't just be like, "That was a bad speech." Be like, "Oh, that's fantastic. What was bad about it?" Because if you speak about what could be improved, then that kind of feedback is so much more valuable. Okay. Try to refrain from distracting behaviors, and one of them is repeating an unnecessary word. I'm guilty of the one that says and sometimes I say okay in the in the videos that I do. And see, I've just been doing it as well too. If you're taking the during the speech, you want to try to refrain yourself from repeating the exact same body motion. So, like, some people will push their hair over to their side, some people will adjust their glasses, some people like sway from one foot to another. And the thing is, you don't even really realize that you're doing it whenever you're giving your speaking. So, sometimes it's helpful to have other people tell you, be like, yo, you're swaying whenever you talk, because that actually distracts people and they're not really necessarily listening to you. They're just watching what you're doing because your actual motions are more interesting than your words. Fidgeting with a note card or a script, it's okay to have some notes with you, but you don't want to like sit there and fidget with it. That's going to distract people as well. And then like unusual vocal treatments. So if you make your voice rise, or if you like get quieter at the end of every sentence so that people have to like strain to hear you, you have to be careful with those as well too, because some people need to like try to muster up the courage, and they start off strong, but then as they try to finish the sentence, it gets weaker and weaker. Try to just think about doing the exact same volume all the way through. Don't go up, don't go down. Just try to do the same volume. You can make your speech more attractive by changing more than your volume. You can change your tone, you can change your inflection, and all of these, your voice is very, very versatile, and changing all of these things will make you more presentable. There's a couple of elements down here, and like it once again, you guys are welcome to read through these. So these are just good tips and advice on how to actually give a decent presentation. And I look forward to seeing how you guys do. I think that giving the presentations is fun, but I've already talked way too much. So you can tell that presentations are a big deal to me. But I look forward to what you guys are going to come up with, and I will talk at you guys later. Have a great day.